Hey, a reasonable Lou. Kelly and I are about to go to sleep. We figured we'd give you our sleep look since you gave us your wake up look. We wanted to comment on this. We don't really have anything scripted or anything, so it's just off the top of the head. But I know exactly what you're saying. Yes, same arguments from theists over and over. I know exactly what you're saying. It's hard, and I try to guard myself from it, but the best thing that I can tell you to do is step back anytime you've heard the same thing so many times that you're going to take it out on the person. In other words, you've heard Pascal's wager given to you 1,000 times, and you've politely responded every single time, but finally the 1,000th person comes along and you can't take it and you blow a top. That's when it's time to step back and take a break. Now, the other way to handle it is to recognize, just like you do with probably everything you do, is just recognize the reality of a situation here. And you know the reason why religion has grown to the point it has grown to. You understand why people believe what they believe. You understand the kind of indoctrination and the brainwashing process that occurs in most people. And so since you know this, you have to recognize that it's not necessarily their fault, and you have to just understand the reality of the situation. And while it's upsetting to realize that there's such a big, huge conspiracy on our planet right now, and that 80% of the planet is falling for it, you shouldn't always take your anger out on them. There really isn't anybody to take your anger out on. The closest you can come to is today's world's current religious leaders. However, religious leaders have been indoctrinated and brainwashed themselves. You got something to add here? Like, how do you deal with it? Like anything?
Well, I try to make myself feel better just based on the fact that the more often I have to respond to an argument, the easier it is to just debunk it. So I've already said this one line 1,052 times, so I don't really even have to think about it anymore. It's a lot easier to go on like autopilot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking when we watched the video about I've wondered at what point in doing like Rational Response Squad am I gonna be like, I cannot possibly talk to one more of these people, or my head is going to literally explode.
Well, in the history of our show, and A Reasonable Lou is a subscriber, so she probably has heard some of the stuff, but in the history of our show, there have been plenty of times when we've had enough.
Yeah,
Matt
sometimes you
Slick
gotta let it out.
conversation is a good example. Matt Slick came on the show, and it was just like, I mean, if you heard the show, he was whining and bitching about everything. Too many people talking. We've changed the topic.
Well, doing everything except answering questions.
Yeah, he was doing everything except answering questions. And then finally, I asked him one question that was obviously a question that he couldn't even answer it without defeating himself and exposing himself as having flawed reasoning. And so he dodged it for like 5 straight minutes, and I just kept restating the question, asking him to answer the question. Just kept restating, and he just wouldn't answer the question. And then finally he was like, okay, why don't you ask the question again, and we'll see if it's a good question. When he decided that he was finally willing to answer it. And at that point, I had just had enough. And it's not just repetitive arguments, it's also just the willful, and blatant dishonesty. When somebody is like that dishonest to your face, you realize, look, there's no point in having this conversation. If they're just going to lie to your face, you'll make a specific point, and then they won't recognize that point as valid, even though they haven't proven it invalid. Those are times when, if you want to step away, it's time to step away.
Or you can just scream at them and then hang up the phone. That works too.
I think something else to remember too is that when you have these discussions like thousands of times, religion is so important to people and so deeply held, so ingrained in them, that it's not often like other conversations, like a conversation that you might have about an athlete or a particular food dish or a car or what to do that night. Unlike a discussion about those things, religion is so much more important to somebody that you're not likely to see them admit that you have helped them overcome their religious beliefs. And so since you're not likely to see that, since they're probably going to go back to their house, sit on the information that you said, mull it over, even if you did change them right there, even if you did help them abandon religious belief right there, they're probably too ashamed and embarrassed to admit it. So that makes it even harder to repeat the same argument over and over and over again because you don't see any results and you feel like you're bashing your head into a brick wall. When in reality you could have helped half of the people you had talked to in the past abandon religion and you just don't realize it. And
yeah, that's kind of what keeps us going, is that we get that kind of feedback from people on occasion that, like it's because of something we said or did or a debate or whatever that caused them to question their beliefs and ultimately abandon that kind of delusional, irrational thinking. And so, I mean, really that is the thing that helps us, keep trotting through the same old bullshit. And, yeah, you gotta sacrifice your sanity for the sake of humanity. God, that rhymed and that was weird. But, yeah, when all else fails, full frontal lobotomies are nice.
We get probably at least one person a day now that either writes to us or says so on rationalresponders.com that either our website or one of us personally, sometimes they'll mention our debate with Ray Comfort. Recently a few have mentioned the debate with, or one specifically has mentioned the discussion with Ergen Keener. But people tell us on our website all the time that we help them overcome religion. And you're part of that website, so some of that is you. I don't know what, but that's where you have to find solace because really?
Yeah.
Out of my head. Anyway, there's a lot of people that are abandoning religious belief. And think about it. The one thing, we bring this analogy up all the time, but the FCC has some number. If somebody calls and vocalizes a complaint to the FCC, that's akin to 100 people that would have vocalized the complaint, but that were too lazy to do it. Well, if you think about the fact that I think in terms of sort of human biology and human thought, more people have a hard time admitting that they're wrong than people that are lazy. And I believe that the number of people that will actually admit they've abandoned religion is probably smaller than people that would call the FCC. My point is that if one person writes to our website and says, I've abandoned religious belief because of your website, I think the number is much, much higher. It might be 50 to 150 people that are abandoning religion as a result of our site. And if that number is true, we have thousands of people every month abandoning religion because of our website, and we just don't know. You just can't get those numbers. So don't give up. And we've had plenty of those mornings too, by the way.